A question I've actually got for you that's a little bit more recent in the news with Russia and Ukraine is the Prigozhin mutiny.
Oh yeah.
And I listened to the speech that Vladimir Putin gave. I think he gave two, but the first one he gave.
I
And
know.
we've been talking a lot about World War II, but I thought it was very curious that he actually invoked World War One in
Yes,
his
so
speech.
1917.
Yes, and I'm curious, as somebody who has written a book about politics of the past, first, like, what I guess what is the Russian view of World War One now, and like how true is what Putin was saying? Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on his reference in that speech.
Sure. So World War One is very interesting in Russia because generally it's been completely sort of forgotten because it comes, like you have the revolutions in 1917, and then you have like this horrific civil war that lasts until sort of what 1921, 1922. So it's often kind of submerged just within all of that. And when Putin came to power, one of the first things he tried to do was almost to bring together like the the whites and the Reds, if you can call it that. So he went and he unified the Russian Orthodox Church abroad, set up by white emigres, so those who fought, against the communists, and he unified it with the Russian Orthodox Church at home, and that was a real priority for him. And in 2012, he gave this speech about how Russia is a country that needs, a lot of cultural therapy where the wounds of the civil war still loom large. So on one level, this is something that matters to him, this idea of kind of being the unifier of the divisions within Russia. But those references to the Civil War, to World War One as well, and to 1917, they also come back to this point where Russia is essentially not its people, it's its state, and the state must be protected. The people protect the state, right? Not the other way around. And that's an important kind of political lens, but also, and this is where this is more my interpretation, my kind of analysis of it based on reading a lot of these historical texts and speeches over the years. The references to 1917, they were also designed to play on Russian fear of state collapse, because Russians had in the last century, Russian state collapsed 3 times. That's a lot of times for a state to collapse. And there's a real fear. So it's like, oh, just at least don't let it be worse. And that's a real like trump card that Putin has. Because first of all, I found it really weird he was saying these things, because normally he says, oh, look, you have stability with me. So I was like, why is he bringing up 1917? Because I mean, the Wagner threat, it wasn't as serious as like 1917, right? Or state or times of troubles, when the Poles invaded, in the sort of the 1600s. But actually, the more I think about it, the more it really does make sense, because he's invoking that fear in the same way that he invokes certain traumas, like of the 1990s, of the Soviet collapse, as this is what happens if you don't support me, if you don't support the state. And that is a very powerful emotion, because most people just don't want it to get worse.